Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. So Tran, we just wrapped up our concerns video for the Texas football season, all the things we have questions about. Now is the time for us to all fan out, go over things we're really excited to see, and really just, it's game week. We got what, 5 days, 6 days, 5 days till UTEP, and couldn't be more excited on this Labor Day here. So we're gonna jump into it, but first I do want to make sure you guys are hitting the link. Operation Rebuild for Lake Charles. Excuse me, Lake
Yeah.
Charles. Lake Travis is fine. Lake Charles. Um, they are. They've been overwhelmed just with the devastation of Hurricane Laura, and my friend Tyler Dixon, Wade LeBlanc of the Baltimore Orioles, putting together a GoFundMe to raise funds for their community. Those of you seen Tyler on this channel, my buddy Billy, that's their neighborhood. That's where those boys grew up. So want to help
Yeah.
them out as best we can. Now, make sure you also hit that like button and subscribe. And Top 10 series is out. Part 2 is dropping on Tuesday, so stay tuned. But yeah, we've left the concerns trend.
Excitements. Yeah.
Excitements, man. Where do you want to start personally? I'll go off your lead, my friend.
Let's start with the running back room. I mean, everyone's so excited about Bijan. Let's start with it. Let's start with the running back room.
This is
I mean,
this is going to be it's electric. The room is electric, and I'm just going to make one point. All three of those guys, and because I'm still learning about the transfer, but it's great to have that depth there, especially COVID, all the
yes,
stuff that's going on. I don't know if you saw the Philadelphia Eagles sign a work from home quarterback and Josh
I did. I
Josh
saw
McCown. Yeah, like there's just all sorts of
greatest
craziness
job in
going.
the history of NFL.
Yeah. So we had to load up on the depth there, especially since Daniel Young is opting out this year.
Yep, he's
But when you look at the running back room, the three gentlemen, Bijan, Keontae, Roshan, they all have the elements of the game down, right? From a pass blocking to a running to catching the football. That's what we love to see. And I've already kind of seen some of the stuff with Bijan I'm hearing about, because he wouldn't be listed in that breath if he was struggling with the pass pro stuff. And I think whatever they'll do, Mike Yursich, Stan Drayton, they'll give him a digestible palette of what he'll be asked to do. I don't think he'll be asked to do the exact same things that Keontae Ingram's asked to do in pass pro in particular. So I'm not worried about that per se. They'll have to make it to where they're unpredictable in their play calling, though, because you don't want to have it to where if Bijan's in the game, he's going to get the ball type of thing automatically. But Tran, I'm excited about this room and the prospects we have in there.
first call out. Shout out to Stan Drayton. I mean, what he's done with just ball security from since he's been here. I've just been extremely impressed. You hardly see the knock on wood, it continues, but you hardly see the ball hit the ground, honestly. And when we do, we're quick to react and get on the ball fast. I don't think we've had too many turnovers caused by fumbles.
The only person that had fumble issues was Tonio Carter.
Uh-huh.
Well, and actually, I shouldn't say the only person, because
Daniel Young
got to there. Yeah, but if you notice, both of those guys, they have a very low tolerance for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they strip him from it right away.
Right.
Another call out I want to say is, Bijan just lost a stripe. I really like the fact that he was not the first person to lose it. I like it. Humbles a 5-star, the guy you were recruited to be the face of the organization. And let's be honest, he was recruited to be the face of the organization with all the publicity that he's had in such a short tenure at Texas. You're just really excited because they're complete backs, all three of them. Even with Roshan, growing into his body. I really do like the fact that he's damn near 230. Because now he could take those hits coming in. You said he injured a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the thumper now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just extremely excited about this because we haven't had this depth since, Malcolm Brown and Jonathan Gray. And then, unfortunately, injury issues started happening with both of those backs. Malcolm not as bad as Jonathan Gray, but we haven't had just hey, okay, it's going to be a drop off of talent, once we go to the backup running back or the third string running back. No, I'm not going to. We don't expect to see that drop off.
And the thing too I love about it is the work ethic in the room and the drive. When you and I'm going to give this credit to Roshan Johnson because he's bringing in that quarterback mentality into the room. Number one, number two, the work he put in this offseason on his body, uh, and not just his body, but also the mental aspects and understanding the technical of the game. We actually touched on this a little bit in our countdown series, right? Because we have Roshan Johnson in our top 10 players, and so when I look at what when you have somebody like that in the room, as talented as Keontae Ingram is, as talented as Bijan Robinson is, nobody can slack because it's iron sharper iron in the room. And when you have a strong group like that, and everybody's competing for what? They're competing for carries. They're
Yep.
competing for snaps. And this is the other thing too that Texas is starting to figure out because I haven't talked about leverage yet on this channel, and I will
Yep.
put together my thoughts around it because it's one of those things where it deserved time, just how big it was. And I'll talk about leverage. But one of the things that Texas was already doing through Brian Carrington before they announced leverage was he had put together a Twitter thread on what it takes, what kids are looking for in order to get to the NFL, what it takes to be an NFL back. That was strictly a recruiting tactic, and I love it, right? Because they touched on limiting the carries. We're not going to come here and load you up with 400 carries every year, and then you're tired when you get to the NFL because Texas used to do that, right? And so now it's like they talked about not being a volume runner, but an efficient runner, not being a volume runner, but a complete runner, right? So, hey, maybe we get you 12 to 15 carries out of the backfield, but we get you another 3 to 5 catches, right? Or even 6 catches a game, diverse catches. So now it shows the NFL that you're a diverse running back. You can play on any down. You're not just the first and second down guy. You're an all-purpose back. And in the way the NFL is shifting, the way college football is changing, the way offensive coordinators are trying to figure out how to get yards everywhere they can, touches are changing more and more for running backs. And I don't think there's any school that's better equipped for this shift than Texas is, in my opinion.
No, not at all, and I agree completely. I guess our second positive. Let's just flip. Since we're doing position group right now, let's flip to defensive line. I mean, with the scheme change where we're going to more of a 4-man front. We've talked about this a lot. I think a lot of our big boys are going to eat. I mean, starting with Keandre, I think he's built for the NFL. I remember a 30 for 30 when it was was it the SMU one where the coach would just leave the pipe there and he'd say, I forgot what the coach was, but what the coach's name was. No. It was the U. It was the U. The coach would leave the pipe there and say, "Hey, I'm not looking for people to play on Saturday. I'm looking for people to play on Sundays." He's a guy who's made
I know.
for Sundays.
I think I know. Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, but it was the U's coach.
He's one of those dudes.
Yeah, in the '80s. But he's built for the NFL. His size, his speed, his motor. That's the thing that I harp on all the time is his motor. And what's great about it is that we have depth right behind him. We have a guy who's in similar size, so there's not going to be that much of drop off in talent. One play that I keep on going back to last year was the OU game. It started a huge fight between our friends group, between me, you, and Brandon. We pinned them at the 2-yard line, and we took out our starting defensive line to try to get pressure on either the running back or the quarterback, and we didn't understand why they didn't do that. If they did that this year, I think we both feel pretty comfortable with our second line being in there as well.
And the gentleman you're talking about is T'Vondre Sweat.
T'Vondre Sweat, yes.
Yes, right behind Keontae Coburn. And I agree with you. That I've always said on this channel, your fast track to getting to the playoffs is through your defensive line. When you have a dominant defensive line, it screws. There's nothing you can do offensively as an opponent, especially when it comes in waves. You have a rotation. Let's just look at the depth chart, right? Like you have Moro Jomo starting as your strong side defensive end. You have Taquan Graham is your 3 tech who's very experienced in a better spot to be
Yep.
more productive than what he's been. He's been a good player for us. Now we think, hey, there could be some upside and uptick there even as a senior. You have Coburn as your nose,
Yep.
and then you have Osai playing the jack position, right?
Yes.
And then, but think about the people behind them, because you're
Yes.
talking about Jacoby Jones, you're talking about Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton, Tavondre Sweat. That's a lot of people, right, to be rotating in and out. Prince Dorba, when he gets healthy, can help back up Osai as well, right? And that doesn't include some of the heat we're going to have coming from our linebackers to help them out. But now you're talking about a real nasty 2 deep where you're having conversations like, do you start a Morrow Jones or do you look at a Jacoby Jones who's more of a pass rusher? Do
Yep.
we go with Taquan Graham, or will he get beat out by one of the young guys, Vernon Broughton or Alfred Collins? These are all good conversations to have, right? And so when it's good, especially Marquez Bimage opted out, who I was looking forward to seeing him play.
Yes, me too.
And even on special teams. And I still feel as though this group is so deep and so talented for what we can see them do. And they've almost been restricted by the previous scheme. And now they're going to all be set free is what we're excited to see. Starting even with the bowl game last year, when you look at the way that some of those guys played. Oh, Jomo started turning it on in the Texas Tech game where he was making plays and railroading people in the run game. So I'm excited right there with you. I want to see the production. And this is something that we touched on in the last video with consistency and development and whatnot. I do want to see Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins get the opportunity to get real reps and be those guys who maybe they're not freshman All-Americans, but they make that flash. Like we see them show up every single week.
To follow up with that, but I do want to see them in there, and they will be in there because of this weird season that we're in. But I want them where they're going to be put in successful positions. I don't want them with other backups. I'd like to see them with the starting lineup so they can actually go one-on-ones with people, and they could just beat them with their skills. I mean, you're huge on Collins. Let him be his freak athletic self and try to go one-on-one and win that rep.
This is a very important year for Mark Hagan and Oscar Giles because I also want to see what creative things they do up front with those 4. One of the things you saw, we've compared this defense a lot to what Chris Ash was doing at Ohio State. And, Larry Johnson, a great defensive line coach over there, and what he did with the Bosas and Chase Youngs. Those guys moved around too, Tran. Some of those guys would randomly line up inside, try to, freak out the guard and line up in the 3 technique. I want to see Vernon Broughton, and I've already seen some of the footage of practice where Vernon Broughton will line up at the strong side defensive end position and rush. Just different matchups, right? Showing that left tackle different pitches, right? Hey, you're not just going to go up against Joseph Osai every single time. I still want to see Joseph Osai every now and again play a little pass coverage or drop out into the just to give people a different look. It doesn't mean you have to. We just want to make sure he's rushing. I'd say 80% of the time. I'm with that, and I think he'll get his numbers in that manner. But you also don't want to take away somebody's full set of gifts. And I think now we have the amount of depth there to where, like you said, people can take advantage of their one-on-one opportunities.
And that was a really good call out there. You said Vernon Broughton going to playing a little bit of defensive end. Is that for once we have length at all positions. Usually, since the Ominahu days, it's been really just like one guy with the
height,
freakish
good height,
yeah. That hopefully, I want to see a lot of batted passes down too. Not just QB hurries or QB sacks. Just be disruptive all around. So that's a real good call out. If we get the length on the field, I predict that it's going to cause either passes defended or it's going to cause errant passes.
So I mentioned 2 coordinators, Mark Hagan and Oscar Giles, and we're excited about all these guys, Coleman Hutzler and guys like Jay Valai, who's become a
Jay
star
Valai,
on
I'm huge,
social media.
huge on.
I think in general we are excited about the staff and just an uptick in terms of having better technique. A lot has been made about Chris Ash teaching rugby style tackling. One of the issues we saw this week in watching football, and I know it's different levels, but tackling was an issue this week. And some of it is because of practices, I'm assuming, but also just technique, right? And certain angles. Being buttoned up in those areas, I think will go a long way. And I think what the staff that Tom Herman tried to put together has been one of, within your position group, do we have good teachers that can help with those technical fundamentals? And also from a Belichickian type of way, I'm never going to ask you to do something you're not capable of doing. And I felt like too many times somebody would come out of our lineup before, offense or defense, but we would ask them to do with the person they just replaced. And that person is not physically capable of doing that or not there in their development. And so we put them to what you just said earlier, putting people in the game with the opportunity to win or putting them in a position to succeed. I think with the position coaches, because one of the thing is how they rotate, right? They're going to have to make that call on who they want in there on third and short, right? Or who they want in the goal line package. That's typically Strand Drayton's typically the one that decides what running backs are in the game at one situation. So I think we're more equipped to have success there and not be worried about those things, but actually excited about it.
Yeah, exactly. Situational football and knowing your talent, knowing what you have there to actually work with for that situational football. And I really want to go into that the defensive coordinator, Chris Ash. We all know what we're going to get with Yursich. We've seen him in this conference, and we've seen him be successful at other conferences as well. But Chris Ash is, one thing that, I don't really like him, and I know a lot of our fans do like him and hope he's our next coach, is Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer does not like Texas. Let's be honest. Let's be straightforward. He's had some not some choice words to say about Texas, but one thing he did state was he went into facts and statistics on first round draft picks from the Big 12 defensively, and it's not that high. He sang Chris Ash's praise. He said, "I think that's going to change a lot with Chris Ash hiring at Texas. I think once he gets his scheme in, once he gets his players in, you're going to see Texas defense just own that conference." And to me, one thing I don't like him personally, Urban Meyer. One thing you can't say about him is he's not a good talent. He doesn't have a good eye for talent for the coordinator position. Every one of his coordinators have become successful, and I really am looking forward to see his thought with this depth that we have.
And look, the first year Texas defensive coordinators have all been rock stars. So why not? And I would argue that he has more returning talent than even Manny Diaz had back when he took over, right? So I just think that year one, Chris Ash, well, the adjustment for him is coaching in the Big 12. It is different, and we have some of the craziest offensive minds here. And that longevity in the Big 12. Because one of the things that has been a challenge for us here is when guys move on and these defensive coordinators, somebody figures out their fastball, they don't pivot very well. That was the doom of Todd Orlando, right? The doom of Vance Bedford. So we have to do a better job for Chris Ash in particular, and as our program, of making sure we have that expectation, that level of defense. And it starts with, again, the staff and just understanding fundos in the technical side of the game. It goes a long way. We can't have those things fall off a cliff in 2021 and moving forward, assuming he's still our defensive coordinator for the long haul. I think the talent level, speaking on talent level, we've got guys that are actually NFL prospects on this team.
First time in a long time.
First time in a long time, like real NFL. And look, shout out to Malcolm Roach, by the way, for making the New
Making
Orleans Saints
his
their
hometown.
53-man. Yes.
Yes.
That is wonderful news for that brother, man. And somebody who stuck it out here at Texas, was a leader for us. The same way that we're seeing Keandre Coburn turn into a leader in the locker room. Malcolm Roach gave us that, became captain. So we're very happy for Malcolm Roach to make the 53-man roster on the Saints. I believe little Jordan Humphrey, who did make the roster, but he did make the practice squad team. And I think PJ Locke might. I think there's conversations of him making the Broncos practice squad. So we have some guys hovering around. However, with this group, Samuel Cosmi is by all mocks, right? And all, we're talking about him being in the top 15 of this draft coming up,
Yep.
right? So that's a real NFL prospect. Caden Stearns, health willing. We've seen him have his name thrown around in first rounds. We know the instincts are there. He's just got to stay healthy and put together another good year of tape. He will be a first rounder, assuming those things, right? There's work to be done, but he's a real NFL prospect that they're excited about. I think Joseph Osai is coming, right?
Yes.
Like, we have guys who, not just like we're excited about personally, but Joseph Osai will have the measurables. He looks the part, right?
Yes.
He looks like an NFL outside linebacker or 3-4 outside linebacker. He looks like one of those people that you can stick in any type of defense, honestly, with his energy, with his football IQ, and just his general upside. So that's 3 people right there. And Sam Ehlinger, and this has been the controversial one, but the ascension that we've seen quarterbacks make from one year to the next. Last year you had Joe Burrow, which is the big one with the coordinator change. He goes from really a 6th-round prospect to the number 1 overall pick and no consensus number 1 overall pick.
It was an easy number 1 pick.
Easy, right?
Yeah.
But even I even look at Jalen Hurts going 53 overall to the Philadelphia Eagles. As limited as he still is, Tran, as a passer. Now he's a different type of quarterback, different type of athlete. But if those guys can make those type of leaps, and Sam, we already got the report that there's one team that already has a 2nd-round grade on Sam Ehlinger. Why can't he get there as well as a late 1st-rounder or a 2nd-rounder? That will help our program tremendously, in my opinion.
So the only things that he really needs to touch on right now is he needs to touch on his accuracy, his deep ball accuracy, and I'd say his sideline accuracy, whether it be a wheel route or whether it be just a quick out or things like that. I think over the middle he's pretty good, and he has it in between the ears, and I think he could start reading defenses, and I think Yursich is going to help him a lot with that in his development. But yeah, what we want to see is consistency and accuracy through him. He's got the leadership intangibles, and he's got the toughness as well. So I'm not going to say he's going to ever jump to a number 1 overall pick.
No.
Could he sneak into the 1st round if he has a huge year?
I think so.
Yes. Could he? Do I think he's a top 3 round pick? I think he is. And if he goes out and proves it, I think he can be. And people may call me crazy, but I've been on the Sam Ehlinger train, I guess, since I saw him play his first game, honestly. And I'm glad that we gave him time to develop, because that's huge. It's huge. It's huge in his development, and we've seen him increase year over year over year, and that's what you want to see on a kid. I think another player that Keandre Colbert, we've already mentioned him. I think he's an NFL player. Derek Kerstetter, I think he's an NFL player. And then our defensive backs.
Thank you for calling out Derek Kerstetter. Yeah, but Derek Kerstetter, so especially at the center position, if he's able to be as good a center as he was at right tackle, he'll get drafted.
Just from his versatility standpoint.
Yeah, from a versatility standpoint, and the fact that we've seen a little bit of a struggle. You always have like the elite guys. Like this past year was like Cesar Ruiz, and then the kid what the Cowboys drafted from Wisconsin. But then there's like a drop, right? So Derek Kerstetter can definitely be one of those guys. I feel like for us. And then the long-term guys, Bijan Robinson. Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton, Carrick can get there. Like they got Jarrett Wiley can get there physically.
Adamora, I'm high
Right.
on Adamora.
Those are guys who should have NFL futures. Develop them, Texas. I'm excited to see these guys grow into what they're going to become. Jake Smith, there's no reason with his speed and what he can do in the slot, right? Brennan Eagles, get there. Tarek Black, we didn't even talk about him. He's made the top 50 for the Senior Bowl invites. Let's help him
Already?
finish his
Yeah.
mission, right? Because these are people that were highly regarded, players, and they just needed to either be developed. In Black's case, he needed to play in a real offense with a real quarterback, because Shea wasn't getting it done over there. Shea was making him look bad. So now he got Sam. He's going to look a lot better. So the NFL, I'm excited. I'm just excited for the NFL guys, and I think that will do wonders for our program from a recruiting standpoint, set people's minds at ease that are considering Texas in the 2022 class and beyond. Now, the last thing we want to touch on in the video, and for me, and we talked about the quarterback already, but quarterback coach combo is huge. And when you have a coach and Tom, and I'm talking, it's kind of a three-man thing.
Three-headed monster, yeah.
Right, because you have Sam, you have Tom Herman, and now you take out Tim Beck, but you bring in Mike Yurcich. And I know we talked about the coaches before, but what Mike Yurcich brings, and Tran said it earlier, is a proven product in this conference, is a proven product with the quarterback position. And now I have a Tom Herman, and I'm excited to see, because we put a lot of heat on him in the first video from a macro perspective around consistency. But Tran, I'm excited to see Tom Herman, the CEO version.
Yeah,
where
no,
we
absolutely.
actually clean up those things. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. It's like when we were most successful in the Mac Brown days, it was when Mac Brown was running as an organization, as a business, and he was the figurehead. He let his coordinators coach, and I see that that's the path that Tom Herman is heading on. And I think he made a rock star hire in this guy. I mean, not only does he have experience within the Big 12 and coaching against Big 12 defenses, but he also has experience now in a playoff atmosphere. And honestly, you can't blame the offense for Ohio State losing. There was a drop pass, I think, by J.K. Dobbins that should have been a touchdown. But I mean, Justin Fields looked the part. He looked like he was ready to play in the national championship. So, and you can't blame it on the offense on the offense.
And that was an injured Justin Fields too.
Mm-hmm.
He was very, very hampered by his knee. So, to your point, just a big game energy. And look, Mike Yurcich was passing game coordinator. He wasn't. Was he Kevin Wilson planning everything? No. But what we do know is if we can at least be what we saw at Oklahoma State, I'm very excited for the because we have more talent than they did from prospects and all the people, even on the up front at the offensive line. I'm just being blunt with y'all, right? And
yes,
I know some Cowboys fans will jump on here and disagree, but I feel like we have more talent just across the board from a depth perspective than what they had. So it's a lot for him to do, and Tom Herman's got to give him that freedom to do it, right? But what I'm excited where I was going though is more of the in-game stuff. We've had issues with the clock, right? Clock management, or making those instinctive decisions of when to go for it, when not to. Hey, now I think as a CEO type of head coach, like we saw with Coach O last year, you can read the room better, right? So it's like, hey, energy's a little down. Hey, coach, I know you're getting ready to run this play. Let's give them some juice. Let's get the kids excited, right? One of the things you see coming back in college football today, when we saw like Texas State versus SMU, the kid gets an interception and they had like the confetti bottle and they pop the bottle and they do that to get the kids' energy up, right? They want the kids to get fired up. Football is fun, as my coach used to say all the time, right? And so I look forward to Tom Herman doing adding those little things. I'm not saying got to be a gimmick on the sideline or have turnover chain or anything like that. But what I am saying is he can have a much better barometer to the kids' energy level and when they need something. Sometimes it may be, hey, we got to throttle it down in this situation and run a little bit of clock here, right?
Yeah.
And just being more cognizant of those things, because we watch a lot of college and NFL. One of the things we notice is those little things in coaching, how they have such a big impact on the game and the outcome, right? Even Texas LSU last year. I wish he would have felt in his gut like, hey, that second time we were down there, kick the field goal, get your points, right? And just not getting overtly emotional, but rather controlling the emotions of the game. I think he's better equipped to do that now.
I agree. And one thing that you alluded to was, the time of possession. There was one time where we wanted to pull our hair out when we weren't running the ball. And that's situational football. And I think that's where we'll also see Yurcich in there, because both offenses that he coached in that we mentioned, Ohio State and Oklahoma State, they both are predicated off of the run. Mm-hmm. They both are. Yeah, he was the passing game coordinator, and that's going to be his bread and butter is making creating routes that find the guy open and allow the quarterback to read coverage. But both of them, it starts with the run. Mike Gundy, his big claim to fame was he got to turn around and hand it off to Mr. Barry Sanders. So I mean that we have a three-headed monster, and I that's one thing that I'm excited about, is that he won't forget them. We won't have those games where it's eight rushing attempts.
Oh boy,
4 of those by the quarterback.
Oh boy, yeah. So CEO Tom Herman is the last one we wanted to touch on. You guys let us know in the comments what you're excited to see, what really is getting you up for this Texas football season when you look at the groups. There's so many other ones we can talk about. We have more depth at corner now, just the overall experience on this football team. There's a lot we can still touch on, but these are the ones that John and I chose to highlight, just in how it can impact recruiting down the road. But quarterback-coach combo, NFL prospects, our running back room, our defensive line, and just the change and the new energy that our staff is bringing in. We can't wait to see these guys kick off on September 12th against UTEP. Last video we want to do, and this will be coming later, is our UTEP preview. You guys know, game week, we always provide you guys, hey, here's our breakdown for the week. Here's what we got to look out for on the other team and what our thoughts will be. I can tell you right now that will be a relatively short video. No disrespect to UTEP. But we'll get there when that comes. Love you, Tran. And guys, horns always up. Kickoff's on the way.